Early in the program, we discussed the newly passed budget with leaders in the Illinois House and Senate. And joining us once again are state lawmakers Dan McConchie, Don Harmon, Tom Demmer, and Chris Welch. Welcome back to all of you. Speaker Welch, some bills around carjacking passed last week, like a measure that allows law enforcement to cooperate across different municipalities or jurisdictions to catch a carjacker, and then another bill that waives traffic fines for a stolen car. Everybody knows that carjacking has exploded in Chicago and Cook County the last couple years. Can these bills really make a dent in that?
Oh, absolutely. I think every little thing would help. We believe that these are all additional tools that will help law enforcement get the job done. These were all negotiated with stakeholders at the table. We said that we have been working on this since December of last year, and we promised we'd get something done, and we did that. We got something done on carjackings. We got something done on organized retail theft. We got something done on ghost guns. This was a huge session for the legislature, and we got it done because we worked together with our friends over in the Senate and also with all the stakeholders at the table, recognizing what's going on in this state and what's going on in this country. And I think it's going to make a huge dent in what's going on out there.
Senator McConchie, these bills spurred some very contentious debate. Do you think these bills surrounding carjacking, retail theft, ghost guns can bring down the crime rate in the Chicago region and beyond?
Well, we'll see if there's any kind of significant thing. The speaker just mentioned that they were little things, and I would agree, little things can, maybe help some, but these bills are frankly nibbling around the edges of some real problems. I'm sure it'll be of cold comfort to the person who gets carjacked to now know that they won't have to pay the tolls that the carjacker, when they blow through toll booths or red light camera tickets. At the end of the day, law enforcement asked for significantly more than what we offered them during this legislative session. They're continuing to ask for more. We continue to have issues with the fact that some of our state's attorneys, particularly in Cook County, just choose not to file charges at all the opportunities that they could, and that is emboldening criminals. And so we have a multi-level effort that really needs to be underway, and unfortunately only we did was a little bit.
Representative Demmer, one of those law enforcement officials was Sheriff Tom Dart of Cook County, calling for a bill that would create a 24/7 hotline for automakers to track cars if they are carjacked. That did not advance. What else can the General Assembly do to tackle this specific issue of carjacking?
Well, carjacking has become a daily occurrence, and people wake up each day to see the latest cases of it. I think that when we look at, carjacking and trying to prevent some of these things from happening, being a deterrent to future carjackers, we have to think about the fact that when the Safety Act passed a year and a half ago, this created an environment where coming very soon, cash bail won't be required for somebody who's a carjacker. I mean, I think that's a very dangerous precedent to set, and something that shows that Illinois is not taking this issue of violent carjackings very seriously.
Senator Harmon, can you talk about the issue of ghost guns? President Biden introduced a measure federally on ghost guns. What does Illinois' bill do?
Our ghost gun bill cracks down on these homemade guns, whether they're from kits that you get through the mail or that you assemble from parts at the store. It's important for our law enforcement that guns have serial numbers so that they can be tracked in the event of a crime. So our bill makes it illegal to possess or transfer guns that don't have serial numbers, that exist outside of the scope of the regulatory process today.
Leader Welch, Speaker Welch, Representative Demmer just brought up the SAFE-T Act, the Criminal Justice Reform Act that passed last year. One part of it eliminating cash bail for things like carjacking. Do you think Democrats are in a fall session going to have to go back and look at parts of that SAFE-T Act if crime doesn't come down?
I do not, and I do not. I believe Leader Demmer and the Republican Party have spent the last year creating a false narrative. Most of the Safety Act has not even gone into place yet. Most of it doesn't even go into effect till January 2023. Here's what we do know. We do know that crime has been on the rise all over the country, not just in the state of Illinois. And it's been on the rise because of a global pandemic that hit everyone hard, because of mental health concerns and things of that nature. And what have we done in Illinois? We've passed balanced budgets that have addressed public safety concerns, have addressed mental health concerns. And what have our friends like Leader Demmer and the Republicans have done? They voted no against all of that. They voted no last week against almost $500 million in public safety dollars. They're running commercials talking about Democrats are defunding the police. but I haven't seen them vote for a budget that funded any of the public safety things that we put on the board the last 2 years. So there's only one party in this state that's voting to defund the police, and that's the Republican Party.
Leader McConchie, obviously crime, criminal justice is going to be a big part of this election. Can I have you respond there to Speaker Welch's contention there that Republicans are not coming forward with ideas that would actually put a dent in crime?
Oh, well, I mean, we introduced a multitude of bills, I think, both in the House and the Senate, to address not only crime, issues with budget, a whole bunch of things. And unfortunately, the majority has ignored those. If they assign them to committee, they're never heard. When things are put together, like the budget and so forth, we're not invited to the table. And then, they put poison pills in there, like raising legislator salaries, and then address to us and say, well, you guys didn't vote for it, so you're against it, when we were never invited to the table in the first place. I mean, that's not the way democracy is supposed to work. Democracy is supposed to be everybody coming around the table, making their views known, and putting it in. The Democrats here have supermajorities. They've chosen to do this on their own, and as a result, we'll see what the election looks like in the fall.
And on a related issue, Representative Demmer, there's been a lot of contention over the state's parole board. Last week, the governor named 2 more people to sit on that board. This is, of course, the board that decides who can walk free out of Illinois prisons. Has the dysfunction there finally settled?
I'm not sure the dysfunction is settled. I mean, I think you have to ask about a larger narrative about what is the message that the majority party today, Democrats who control the governor's office, the Senate, and the House, what's the message they're sending about how serious they are about addressing the public safety issues in Illinois? We've had a record level of retirements and resignations from police officers, sheriffs, deputies. We have a system in place right now that come January, a carjacker will be back on the streets mere hours after they've committed their carjacking because cash bail has been abolished. We have to ask about what's the longer running narrative there. This was never an issue that was just related to the Prisoner Review Board. This is about a larger approach of what does it take to achieve public safety and which party is actually looking out for people every day.
And I want to get to another issue with the unemployment insurance fund in the state. It's still about $1.8 billion in debt. Senator Harmon, how will lawmakers be able to plug that debt?
Paris, I'll answer that question, but I have to respond.
Sure, I'll give you the opportunity.
The Republicans have clearly latched onto this political strategy that doesn't match with reality. Democrats are voting to fund police. Representative Demmer's notion that cash bail is going to release people is upside down. Today, a carjacker can bail out so long as he has enough money. When the new bail system is put into place, those people can be held in jail pending trial because they're a danger to community. It's fear mongering and panic. It is totally inappropriate. I'll leave it at that. You asked about the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. The General Assembly took the unprecedented step of putting $2.7 billion of taxpayer money into the unemployment system. This is the first time we've ever subsidized that system with taxpayer money. It's always been a contained system negotiated between the employers and the employees. And what we've done by making that extraordinary first-time contribution of taxpayer money is to take the edge off the debt, to put it back in the realm where the system has settled itself before. After the 2008 foreclosure crisis, the economy went under, and the system settled a $1.8 billion deficit on its own. We put it back in the position to do just that by putting taxpayer money into the system for the first time ever.
Still a little ways to go to close the rest of that debt, and we're going to have to leave it there. Our thanks to state lawmakers Dan McConchie, Don Harmon, Tom Demmer, and Chris Welch. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.